What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Horrible Outdoorsman podcast with our host,
Chris Lopez, the Horrible Outdoorsman.
and I am Elvis with ERC Outdoors. We have opened up a shop, C&E Custom Outdoor Services, to fulfill all of your outdoor needs.
All right, so y'all stay tuned and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Horrible Outdoorsman podcast. I am the Horrible Outdoorsman, Chris. Elvis is not here, but we're going to continue on because that is what it is. You may notice video. Yes, we have video. We're going to try to attempt this. We're going to see how it goes. I'm not supposed to show brands. It's a Miller. So, hunting season is upon us. Bow season is in full swing. Gun season is about to start. I figure it's as good a time as ever to talk about broadheads. So, I'm going to start off with my personal favorite broadhead of all time. The Slick Trick Magnum. Now, I like this because, it's a fixed, so I don't have any possibility of mechanical failure. And if you see me looking off to the left, I'm looking at the screen to make sure that, you're getting 100% what you need to. So excuse me, I'm new to the video podcast world. I like it because you can replace the blades. I like it because it's a 4-blade. And I like it because this design is very simple. So take that washer and the blades just slip together. So if I lose one of the, if I shoot this particular broadhead, say I shoot the particular broadhead, excuse me, say I shoot this particular broadhead 20, 30, 100 times into a target. All I need to do, and I am sorry for that interruption, all I need to do is replace these blades. And it's going to work great. It's still going to be sharp. I may need to sharpen these up a little bit, but I have a stone that I can use. These, for me, I have found these to be one of the most accurate broadheads that I've shot out of my bow. I can shoot these 80, 90 yards. They will drop, past about 60, 70, past about 75 yards. They start dropping faster than field points. There's more drag. It's going to happen. But the fact that I know that and I can hit a target out there, these are greatly accurate. 60 yards, which is probably my max effective range on most things. I'm center punching anything. So what's come back into style now, it's in vogue now, is the big solid blades. More of a traditional broadhead, what you think. This particular one is an iron rail single bevel. So if you take a good look, you can see only one side is sharpened. That's the single bevel. So when it goes, it's going to rotate according to that bevel. You hit heavy bone, it's going to rotate. It's going to help break your big heavy bone. You can get this in a double bevel to where it's sharpened on both sides. It's not going to have the rotational force. But this and the double bevel version are more for people that need aid in penetration. So your shorter draw lengths, your lower draw weights, your slower bows, your younger archers, or people that are going after big things. If I'm going to shoot a hippo, I want this. I want the single bevel because I want to make sure I penetrate all, 5 foot of that buffalo or that hippo going in. The thing about these, so, with my Slick Tricks, I can replace these blades when they're done or dull. With this, and especially with the single blade, if you had a double blade and you have one of those knife sharpeners, you can make it work. With a single bevel, you really need stones. You need to learn how to sharpen. This one came from the factory, shaving sharp. So I got a nice little patch there with no hair now. What little hair I had. So, but you're going to need to learn how to sharpen. So I have the Stay Sharp kit. Ronald Kloss or Clue, I don't know how to say his name. He makes it. It's a nice little glide that clamps on here, and then you put it on your stone and you run the sharpening. You're going to need to learn how to sharpen with these. Otherwise, they're going to be 1 and done, or maybe 5 and done. You have to send them off to have somebody sharpen them. But regardless, this is your advanced level. This is the fly fishing, right? Because once you get here, you start to fall into all kinds of other stuff. Metal, which metal is nice, which metal is better, all that other stuff. Iron wool makes a very good broadhead. Elvis has used these with some surprising results that I'm going to let him tell you about on a later podcast. But single bevel. The old 2-blade mechanical. Now this one's a sever. What I really like about these severs is they come with this little set screw that you can put right in here. And when you're in there, the blades do not activate when you have that little set screw in there. So you can shoot this same one 100 times into a target, pull your little set screw out, and you've never changed this broadhead. You're shooting the exact same broadhead. So your advantage is you know exactly where this is going to hit. You've sighted in your bow with this. So how this particular one works, now you have different styles. So you have jackhammer styles where your blade would open like that. Very big waste of energy, but those are generally like your bigger broadheads. You know, they have more cutting surface. And then you have a slip cam design, which is more like the Rage, so that it goes like that, which is kind of how these severs work. So you push down, poop, and they deploy. So what's interesting about these severs, when they deploy, they have a little piece right here. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try. When it locks in, so these blades pivot. So if you're going through a deer and it hits a rib, it pivots, keeps going, and then it's going to go back. It's going to cut through. This is the titanium 2-inch. They make an 1.5 inch. If you think you need a little less cutting surface and want a little more penetration, for someone like me who's got a big power stroke, 30 inches, 77 pounds, with a very aggressive bow, I can punch this through most things. I can punch this through most deer scapula because they aren't that big. Anything bigger than a deer, and I'm going to need to push a little farther back. You know, this isn't going to work on... People will use this with success for an elk, no doubt. You're not going to put this through a scapula of an elk, most likely, and get full pass through. It's not going to get it past 2. That's for sure. So the last one that I have here is your multiple blade. You're more than 3 blades. This one is a G5 dead meat. It has that slide back kind of slip cam like the Rage. And this is your very aggressive mechanicals. So they make 4 blades. I think the Grim Reaper Carna 4 is probably the most prominent, but that's an 1.5 inch cut. They have a 2-inch cut like this too. You need a lot of power behind this to make it work. You're going to need a fairly heavy arrow, high FOC, with a good power stroke and a fairly aggressive bow. I'm not saying this can't be effective, because obviously if this goes through in the right spot, doesn't hit any hard bone, you're going to be devastating with this. You're going to make all kinds of messes. And my wife is dancing in the background to pick on me. Thanks, babe. I'm not saying it can't work. What I'm saying is, I don't think that's going to go through a deer scapula. And I could be wrong. It could bust. You know, deer scapula aren't that heavy. For sure, probably not on elks. But you're losing penetration with the massive amount of blade surface, period. I've got these because I want to try them. I want to try them on deer and see what happens. And I'm not going to use it on target, but I'll probably shoot a doe with it. You know, because if my target, I've got a really good buck on camera, very high racked, possible 10, very tall. He's almost like a horse. If he comes out, the old slick trick mag is what's going to take him out. But what I'm saying is, when you shoot this, you're going to need to be more careful with your shot. And that brings us to our next subject, shot placement and aiming points. So for years, we've all been taught bottom 1/3, a few inches back from the shoulder. That's not right. So if you've looked at deer anatomy, and I'll post a picture that I posted before, and I'm going to use this knife in my hand. So my hand is the leg going down. Once you hit the shoulder joint, it goes in to the scapula here. Or no, it goes in and then goes here to the scapula. Your heart on a deer is here, and this is all lung, right? Your leg bone's here, joints in, all right? You need to be aiming straight up that leg about 1/3 at this heart. Now, say say he ducks. Say that deer ducks, because Texas deer are ninjas, and they'll roll. As Nick Beeson and Elvis Cortinas can tell you, they've had 2 ninjas this year, each one of them. If I'm punching the heart and that thing drops, I'm still hitting lung. This is all lung. Lungs are like balloons, so it's not what you see is just a little bit of lung here. When they breathe in, or when you breathe in, as we talked about with Troy, this whole area fills up. So that's what you're aiming for. That's heart shots, great. But I have found that deer expire faster when you take their breath away. You take the lungs out. Also, you want to aim for your exit. So, perfect broadside shot. I'm aiming perfectly broadside where I want it to go. He's angled, and I'm shooting from this back angle now. I'm not aiming for the same point, because if I aim for the same point, it's going to exit in front of the vitals. I want to aim for my exit point so that it exits exactly where it needs to go. So always remember, and it's going to change too. So if you're at a vertical position, you don't want to aim. You don't want to aim here. What you want to aim is for the exit. So your point of impact is going to change. Especially if you're using something like this, then you're not worried about bone that you're going to hit. So you're not aiming at your point of impact. You're aiming at your point of exit. So next time you're out there on a deer and you've got an awkward angle and you've pulled back and you're looking, just remember what you're aiming for. You're aiming where it's going to come out. So if it's quartered away and I'm up, I'm down, and I've got my arrow and I've got my pin centered. I've got my pin centered behind the opposite shoulder where I want it to come out. I've got the pin centered on the heart. So when I release, that arrow may hit high in the back ribs, but when it drives down, it's going to drive down through the lungs, hopefully hit the heart in both lungs, and come out low where I want it to go. Just a little tip. So this is really, really important on quartering away shots, quartering two shots, any kind of hard angle shots. So, speaking of being elevated, I had a little mishap in a climbing stand. So this is just kind of a PSA for y'all. Always make sure they're strapped together when you're in a climbing stand. If you ever use a climbing stand, you've got two pieces and you're, boop, 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 boop. Well, most of the time they're tied together in case the bottom falls when you're coming down. You just pull it back up and you continue your way down. Well, my strap came undone unknowingly, so when the bottom fell, I was left sitting on the top of my stand in the tree. Luckily, as big as I am, I'm still pretty strong. I was able to do a dip and then roll myself and then kind of stretch, being 6'4", and I only had to drop a foot or so, praying that I didn't hit anything and bust my ankle. Luckily, I didn't. I was perfectly fine. I was able to get the stand down, do what I needed to do, and made another sit that evening. But had I not been wearing my safety harness and that happened, I might have fell with the bottom of the stand. Luckily, I was wearing my safety harness and I was able to kind of jerk myself up. Whenever you leave the ground, 100%, whenever you leave the ground, you need to be wearing a safety harness, no matter what you're doing. You may say, I've been climbing in this ladder stand every season for 30 years. Well, you may not make it to 31. Who's to say that you won't make the misstep and fall? So, coming from what I do for a living, we always have to wear harnesses when we go elevated, so I was very aware of that I needed a harness. I laugh about it now, but when it happened, it kind of made me nervous. I'm sitting there looking down and I'm like, well, how am I going to get down? So at the end of the day, I was able to get down safely. The harness saved me. The tether saved me. So always make sure you're strapped in when you go up. Sorry. So as you know, we both took new jobs. Elvis has, his kids, they play sports. They're a little older than mine. So you're going to be seeing him less and less again. But that's okay. He'll come through every now and then. We appreciate all your support, especially all the guys being patient. We haven't really done this in a while. This is going to be a short podcast because we're just trying to get back into it, and I wanted to test out the video stuff. But we appreciate all the feedback. We appreciate y'all being patient. We appreciate the engagement that we've had on the Facebook. So we'll be able to do more Facebook Live stuff, Q&As with this being, more of a video thing. We'll be able to do, a whole podcast about setting up a bow, because we have the video capabilities now. It's going to be really great. I think this is going to advance our podcast. I'm super excited. If you guys have any questions on broadheads, let me know. Shot placement, we're more than willing to help. If you need any help with your bow, C&E Custom Outdoor Services, we're here to help. And until next time, guys, it's good to see you.